Welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake, the final Pump Fake with a game to talk about until September. It's good to see you all. Jarrett Bailey, joined by the great Mike Tanier. It's great to see you, sir. How are you?
I am doing well. I got a little bit of a cold, so you'll hear me hacking and coughing a little bit here, but I'm fine. I'm doing just fine.
I'm glad to hear it. So in terms of this Super Bowl, it's being billed as just the most boring possible outcome in terms of teams that could have ended up in the game this year, where it's, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs who have, basically have a table reserved for this game at this point. And then the 49ers who have been in every NFC championship game, apparently since the Obama administration, that have found their way to their second Super Bowl in the last 5 years. Yeah. I do find myself, though, unusually confident in betting on the Chiefs to win this somewhat handedly. Okay. So I'll start off with the 49ers defense, so we can kind of break down into that side of things. So they've allowed 52 points over their two playoff games. They've allowed 159 rushing yards per game over that span. The Lions ran for $182, the Packers for $136. They are 19th in the league in EPA since week 11. That's when Hufanga got hurt. So a clear, night and day difference there. I think that when it comes down to that aspect of things, when you give Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes 2 weeks to prepare for a defense that's been struggling, that just gives me a recipe for, the Chiefs should win this.
Yeah, I'm not as confident as you, but I recognize that, when you have a team coming in with some vulnerabilities, and we have a long track record of seeing Andy Reid teams and Patrick Mahomes teams be able to do this Jordan rules type thing in games like this. It makes you feel that way. I'm just not as confident that the Chiefs are significantly better or like on enough of a plane there to say, well, that X factor makes a difference. It's funny you mentioned the Hufanga injury, because I just love 49ers discourse. Well, one guy got hurt once, and now it's like what were we supposed to do? The safety is hurt, and therefore we can't stop the run. That's kind of like that's pure 49ers reasoning. We had some adversity and we couldn't handle it. Of course, I'm being facetious. They're in the Super Bowl now, but had they lost these games, I couldn't wait to hear. Well, what were we supposed to do against the Lions and their offensive line when we didn't have our safety? When every single other guy on the field is as healthy as if they just came down from Valhalla. Ready to play. Bad example, because you'd be dead if you're from Valhalla. If you're coming down from Asgard, ready to play.
Sounds like you've been watching a lot of Vinland Saga with that commentary.
Just old Walt Simonson Thor, not the Vinland Saga. Nothing that highbrow.
The 49ers, how do I want to word that? I don't want to be the guy, because I think I've been labeled as the guy who is like the quote unquote Brock Purdy hater. Yeah, I think that's just been kind of my label. And I'll pull a little bit of a rib when it comes to it and lean into it a little bit. Right. But in terms of them, their offense, that is, we saw against Green Bay, against a Joe Barry defense who, Joe Barry's defense was so vaunted that he got fired. And all it seemed to take was a drizzle in Santa Clara to really even the playing fields. And if, a kick is made by the Packers, if they decide to kick another field goal early on in the game rather than go for it, and if Jordan Love doesn't go full Brett Favre mode down the stretch, maybe we're talking about somebody else being in the Super Bowl besides San Francisco. The same thing could be said for the game against Detroit, where, they're up 3 scores. Josh Reynolds drops a ball on 4th and 2. Josh Reynolds drops another ball later on 3rd down. Dan Campbell decides to go for it on a 4th down when they could have tied the game with a field goal. It's just a lot of self-deprecation.
The ball bounces off of a defender's head and hands. And
yes. Yeah.
And then for the next 2 weeks, we have to talk about the comeback ability of this team, where an interception bounces off a guy's head for a touchdown. Then the kid fumbles and they get the ball back. I mean, some of that is like we wouldn't put the same narrative together if we weren't Purdy skeptics to a degree. Some of that magical stuff happens, to Mahomes and then wide right by the Bills and everything, and its fate and its destiny. There's 2 elements of this. And one is, Brock Purdy to win one game on Sunday with this offense and what he's been able to accomplish with it and in the system what's my skepticism level? And I'm not that skeptical. I don't see any reason why he can't do that. It's different than if you tell me Brock Purdy's going to get traded to the Carolina Panthers, who will sign him to a $247 million contract over the next 6 years. Like they're at ceiling. And I was like, well, no, this young man is not that guy. He certainly is not that guy yet. He would get plastered in those situations. So, and that's where you have to modulate these Purdy things. This idea that he's like some backup off the street who stinks and would be nothing without these guys. That's immature, honestly. Sure. And like, I don't have to talk about his legacy or what he's going to do next year. I can worry about that next week. Can he win this game? Yes, with the support of everything that's around him, because he's won similar games in the last year and a half, honestly.
The thing with their offense, and obviously Christian McCaffrey just won Offensive Player of the Year, and it is the weapons there that, you touched on it. They certainly elevate his play. Deebo Samuel's the one that really, I think if you look at by just, an EPA basis, with him on the field compared to without him on the field, it's night and day for that offense. Yeah. And if I'm the Chiefs, I think that I'm attacking it similar to how I attack Miami, where, okay, we got Trent McDuffie, we got L'Jarius Sneed, we're going to press them, we're going to not respect your passing game whatsoever, we're going to make you make a play, we're going to bracket George Kittle. If you want to run a little bit, cool, that's fine, but at some point in this game, you're going to have to make some plays through the air. We're not going to let that happen. I could see their game plan defensively, especially with Spags and his ability to, come to the line with disguises and whatnot. And I think that you give that sort of attention and that sort of game plan against a similar team in terms of the weapons, the speed, the offense itself. Yeah. I could see a very similar game plan from Spags going into this game, similar to what it was against Miami.
Yeah, my worry about Spags and his disguised blitzes, fronts, etc., is you got to get to 3rd and 10, 2nd and 15 to start doing that. Are you tackling well enough? And they're a pretty good tackling team. Are you stopping the run well enough? They're not a good run-stopping team, because all this is predicated on the idea that the 49ers can't just stay on schedule. And few teams stay on schedule better than the San Francisco 49ers. So, you can use – a lot of times you can look at it and say, you know what, especially from a speed standpoint, you can kind of match up with these guys, because you don't have that Tyreek Hill level, like, the safeties have to be, playing in the parking lot. You can move guys around a little bit, but not if it's 2nd and 2.
Yeah.
Not if it's 2nd and 2. And then it's like, well, then the shallow cross is going to, and 2 broken tackles, and you're in trouble. And that's like, I think the biggest weakness of anything in this game is the 49ers the Chiefs run defense. And we've seen all year, really, for the last 3 or 4 years, against a team that can run sort of a power type of running game, where they can attack you a lot of ways and has a phenomenal running back.
Yeah, they're not going to have Charles Omenihu in this game, who's done with the torn ACL that he suffered.
Okay.
But, this is still, a Chiefs team that held Miami to 7 points. It held Baltimore to 10 points.
Yes.
Defensively, it's as good a defense as they've had. It's been somewhat of an inverse for them this season compared to what it's been in previous years, where, the Chiefs offense is going to put up, 30 points, and Patrick Mahomes and the crew were just going to eat you alive. Now it's, you look at all the homegrown stars, especially that they have on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
It's been very different, and yet here they find themselves again with a chance to win their 3rd ring.
Absolutely. Great drafts over the last couple of years to get these guys, great system fits. And then I go back to the question of, what were the Baltimore Ravens doing 2 weeks ago? What was that?
I don't know. That was a very interesting game plan put together by Todd Monken offensively, was it not? That's putting it mildly.
Did he think he was facing Texas Christian? I don't understand what that was at all, because you're playing into, you are not handing off at all. You are not.
They didn't run. It looked like they were like purposely trying to like maybe prove a point, like, we don't need to run the ball to win. Right. Watch this, but
right, exactly. Let's throw into the teeth of the secondary and let's get off schedule. Let's get off schedule so it's 3rd and 10 a lot, and then we're going to say, well, it'll be the Lamar Jackson miracle play, or you get a strip sack and it changes the entire outcome of the game. So again, I don't see unless there's a mind control thing in the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan's like, hey, you know what? We're going to go completely off balance here, and we're going to spread the field with 5 wide, and we're going to let the pass rush come to Purdy, and we're going to pretend that he's Tom Brady. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be more of a conventional 49ers game plan.
It was going to be a big Jawan Jennings game for the San Francisco
Oh
49ers.
yes,
Really hit him with the rope a dope where they think it's going to be Debo Kittle or Brandon Ayuk. Nope, we're gonna hit
right.
you with Jawan Jennings. Watch out, everybody.
Right. Ross Dwelly is coming, and he's not pass blocking this time. He's not out there trying to block Chris Jones or something.
Who's an X factor in this game that might not be one of the big names that we've already talked about, but you could see making a big difference on the outcome?
That's a good question. Early in the week, I was hoping it was going to be Jarrett McKinnon because I think he is an upgrade over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who just is kind of not there.
It's a good thing that Brett Veach is drafted really well outside of that, or else people would clown that pick a lot more often than we do.
Right. And of course, it's the 32nd pick. So it's like, okay, you pick 32nd, and we all saw the same guy. So anybody's like, I knew CEH was going to stick. You did not. You did.
Everybody on draft night was like, oh my God, how did we let this happen? They got Clyde Edwards-Helaire now.
Right. And then 2 years later, we got the 7th round pick from Rutgers, and he's the guy who's actually doing the thing. And Edwards-Helaire can't see the field. So that was somebody I would have had on the list there. I'm not sure. You have an X factor?
I think that talking to a friend of the show, good friend of ours, Matt Verderam, he loves Drew Tranquill, and Drew Tranquill has been playing very well for the Kansas City Chiefs defense. So I think that that's a guy that could have a big outcome in this game just because his versatility has been shown off. There was a play against Buffalo where they had him as the cover 2 high safety, where he just shifted into it from the middle of the field, and it worked. It worked well. So I could see someone like that where if it's a tight game late, and the 49ers are, having to go through the air a little bit more. If a Drew Tranquill interception happens, that wouldn't surprise me too much.
Yeah, and this is a very big linebacker game because both teams have versatile linebackers that allow them to do things in coverage. They can stay in base more often, et cetera, et cetera. And that's an interesting X factor. The wave defenders for the Chiefs, because and I forget a lot of their names. I don't have them in front of me right now because Spags likes rotating these guys in. You don't necessarily hear of them. Sometimes he's moving people inside next to Jones and stuff. I think one of the guys' name is Dana.
Yeah, Mike Dana.
Yeah, who's been very effective. That's another X factor where if you're going to say, well, I'm putting 4 guys in but I'm not going to rush those 4 and somebody's going back into coverage and Tranquill's playing deep safety because McDuffie's blitzing and all this other stuff. Those guys, whether they're occupying the box or applying some kind of pressure, can make a real difference in this game, especially if they have to stop a delay to McCaffrey. If the response to that is a screen or a delay and you got somebody like that making a play.
Yeah, and the Chiefs aren't going to be hesitant to put Jones on the right side over Colton McKivitz and be like, all right, stop him. Good luck. Here comes 95. And that's going to have to draw the attention of double teams, which is going to open up opportunities for guys like a Mike Dana to make plays on the line. And in terms of the Chiefs offense, where I think that they just kind of settled into understanding who they are, where, throughout, October and a little bit of November, they're trying to okay, maybe Sky Moore's the guy. Nope, no, he's not. Maybe we can get something out of Kadarius Toney or Richie James or who the hell else is one of their receivers. Just we'll bring Mecole back. We'll get the band back together. Yeah. I think once week 16 hit, they're like, okay, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce. Those are our 3 guys worth of piss on offense. We are going to run them at you. And if you can stop them, we'll try to hit you with one of the other ones. But we know it works. And we're just going to lean into that with a hint of Noah Gray and Justin Watson sprinkled in there, just enough to keep you on your toes. Everybody else is out there just because we need 11 guys on the field.
Right. And every once in a while, CEH out there a little bit, which is why I thought, McKinnon adds there, and you got somebody out in the flat who can, make a dangerous play if you leave him alone in coverage. But that's it. And you can kind of see how they were doing it. There's Marcus Valdez-Scantling where it's like, you get 1 chance per game. Go catch a 35-yarder, please. And
by the way, what horrible luck for the Buffalo Bills that he had 2 chances in that game in the division round, and he took advantage of both of them for the first time since last August. Sure, Marquez Valdez. As soon as I think for Bills fans, as soon as MVS caught that 30-yard pass, that was kind of the writing on the wall. This is done. We're done. This is not happening.
Right. The one guy that you could count on to not do it is doing it, and you're in trouble. But and you don't even see the cutesy poo stuff now. It's very rare. I mean, we saw some of it where we had was it Tony or Hardman? It was Hardman who kept fumbling at the goal line. He fumbled a touchback, and it's it's like Reed has to try to once in a while. I was like, oh yes, this is horrible. This young man is completely unreliable. The other one we can't even put on the field because he's going to go nuts on Instagram or something like that. So we have to get rid of him. And whatever happens, I have a feeling there'll be some kind of package to get them the ball once or twice to see if they can give you an end around, give you a screen, and then that'll be it. Because remember, Tony was the hero of the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. Oh, so was Sky Moore. Sky Moore had a nice game as well. He had the one of the touchdown receptions. Right. So, yeah, coming into this year, everybody's like, okay, they don't have anybody quote unquote elite, but you got a nice collection of B-, C+ guys that have played well in their roles. Now it's realizing, oh, okay, that was very much a flash in the pan. This is not what you need.
Right. Right. I kind of thought it's like, oh, somebody will step up, and Rice did step up. So someone did step up. I didn't see everyone else taking this massive step backwards where they're almost like saboteurs, which is what we were seeing from a lot. I mean, Richie James was fumbling punt returns.
It was not good.
Sky Moore just vanished off the face of the earth. Sky Moore's a guy I liked in the draft. I thought he was going to be the slant guy that I think Rashee Rice was turned into. I think they thought it was going to be that. I have no idea what happened to that young man, but it's they're just not reliable people.
They've also had to rely on Rice to be more than just a guy who catches drag routes and slants and screens and goes for a yak. They used him a lot more in the intermediate passing game on like digs and daggers and whatnot, just to get him over the middle of the field. Because they needed somebody to do it and they didn't have anybody else. So outside of Kelsey, of course, but you need somebody who can break those runs off and not just catch a pass for 15 yards and then fall 2 more yards for 17.
You need somebody who's coming from a split wide position to attack the boundaries more. And that can't be a 34-year-old tight end. It's got to be somebody. And Rice has the body and he had the profile coming in from college as a boundary receiver. I thought he was going to be a jump ball guy. So it's kind of surprising to see what he's become as he does this Juju Smith-Schuster type of stuff that he's often being asked to do now.
That's one guy that they really miss, huh? Because, last year Juju was kind of that underneath guy who would, catch the 8-yard pass and turn it into 12. He didn't go down after first contact. They don't really have a guy like that outside of Rashee Rice, who's had to be their everything once they realized, oh, yeah, the rest of our receivers aren't good.
Yeah, and you want somebody with 4, 5, 6 years experience in that role sometimes, because sometimes it's about beating a zone, sometimes it's about getting position. And Rice is doing a good job in those things, but you're learning on the job as opposed to saying, oh, we got somebody, it's his 5th year. He knows how to get that square in and when to sit down in the zone and things like that.
How much of an effect does Pacheco have on this game? Because he's been very up and down in terms of his production down the stretch. He had a really nice game against Buffalo. I think he had 97 yards on 6 yards a carry. But outside of that, he's been somewhat quiet. The 49ers, we already pointed out, their rush defense hasn't been good. If Kansas City can lean into that early, I think that really sways the momentum for them.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I know the production has been lower. He sometimes gets grunt jobs. He gets a lot of grunt jobs in that offense where it's like, okay, it is 3rd and 2. You just have to hammer the line. We're using you near the goal line, things like that. They don't have the rushing attack where it's like, oh, it's 1st and 10 on the 20. We're going to line up in the I formation. I mean, nobody does that anymore, but he doesn't get some of those things. But he's critical to this game because, like you said, the 49ers run defense has been porous in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. It got overpowered stunningly by the Lions. And I think that this offensive line can overpower those guys if they're still playing that way. And then Pacheco gets you some broken tackles. And now you're in a position where you're a balanced offense and you've taken all that pressure off Mahomes, Kelsey, Rice.
Yeah, Baltimore kind of leaned into the fact that, okay, Pacheco's not going to get going. He only had 68 yards on what was it? He averaged less than 3 yards a carry.
Right, but I think a lot of that was late in the game too. I mean, it was
sure.
Crunch. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be paying attention to that early just because the 49ers have struggled against the run. Pacheco has been really a godsend for the team, especially like you're looking against Cincinnati, $130, against Green Bay, $110. He's a guy that they can rely on in the pass game as well. Yes. So in terms of, I mean, we're both betting men. If you had to pick a Super Bowl MVP, who are some of the odds that you like for that? I'll have to actually pull.
I love McCaffrey I like McCaffrey plus 450.
Plus 450, those are tremendous odds.
I mean, it might have changed. That was yesterday when I was doing a bunch of media. It was plus 450. And we were joking. Aaron and I were joking on the FTN podcast. And it's like, Purdy to win the MVP.
I feel like he has to go off.
Either that or every single one of the other guys has to have exactly like 4 catches for 64 yards each. So there is no differentiation between all of the other guys, and you have no excuse to say, well, clearly it was McCaffrey because he had 5 catches for 65 yards. So you're trapped in this thing where it's like, I guess we have no choice but to give it to the guy who distributed the ball to all of them. So
Right.
if there's any separation, and again, the Purdy skepticism, you can take it or leave it. If it's a typical Purdy game where we're seeing a lot of yak and we might see a ball bounce off the hand of somebody into Brandon Ayuk's hand, the most likely guy to wind up with that award is McCaffrey. Again, they're facing a weaker run defense, and I just like the meat on the bone there.
I'm looking right now. Let's see. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to be the victor, so I think I'm going to lean into a Chiefs guy. Like outside of Mahomes, where like it's plus 150, so like you'd make money, but like what's the point of betting it at that point? If Kelsey has a big game and goes for like 890 for a touchdown or two, he's plus 1400 right now. I think that could be a decent one. Pacheco sitting at plus 2500. I think I like that one better than Kelsey, honestly, because when we've talked about it all show, the 49ers run defense isn't good. If Pacheco if Pacheco goes for like 21 carries and a $140 with a pair of touchdowns and they win, I think that's your MVP.
I feel like if Kelsey is the MVP, you want that money and that juice in your pocket so you can deal with the conversations afterwards about how it was all rigged. It's like, oh, thank heavens, I bet 10, I made 80, and I'm not thinking about, and I could go get myself a nice couple of beers and not think about what's going on like right-wing television right now.
Oh man, that would be so fun to just turn on OAN or something the next morning and watch heads explode about Travis Kelce hugging Taylor Swift after they win the Super Bowl. Oh, fantastic stuff.
Super Bowl MVP and how this entire thing is fixed and all of society is set up to make this happen. And like, what the hell is wrong with you? When is the last time you smelled a flower or kissed a girl or I don't know.
Verderam and I were talking during Senior Bowl practice. He's like, I hope they win, and I hope Kelsey proposes at the 50-yard line afterwards. I'm just lean into it. I hope they go crazy. It would be hilarious.
Oh no, absolutely. Take the craziest people in the world and rile them up some more because we might as well overboil it at this point, rather than saying, hey, you know what, everybody's going to come to their senses and everything's going to be fine. No, they're not. Take them to this extreme level and then see what happens.
Maybe that'll be my second career. I'll just, if this doesn't work out, I'll just become a conspiracy theorist on InfoWars and just really spew nonsense and hope that people tune in for it. I think that would be good.
Do it while you're young.
Yeah, I could be the future face of InfoWars. It'll be great.
You and Alex Jones, I love it.
It'll be awesome. The NFL awards were last night. We're going to talk about that real quick. Were there any notable snub? Well, let's talk about the notable snub because they go off of a new voting system where it's first place gets a certain amount of points, second place, third place, and so on. Joe Flacco wins comeback player of the year over Damar Hamlin, and obviously social media blew up for fair reasons. I would say. I mean, what Damar Hamlin came back from compared to Joe Flacco coming back. I can understand the frustration of maybe Bills fans who thought that Hamlin should win, or anybody who thought Hamlin should win. What are your thoughts on some of the awards from last night?
I'll ask that question with a question. What are your feelings on Foster Moreau?
Foster Moreau, that's a tight end, correct?
That is a tight end for the Saints who overcame cancer this offseason.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
did. And got 0 votes for anything.
Okay. That's not great.
That's not great because comeback player of the year is generally not thought of. Every year there's a bunch of guys who are like on the bottoms of rosters who overcame.
I think John Mechie did too. He had some sort of thing that he had traded. Yeah.
Years ago, there was a player for the Giants, Herzlich, who overcame cancer. And there's all kinds of stories like this that are usually sort of on the bottoms of these rosters. Right. And they're never considered comeback player of the year award candidates because the award is not really normally thought of about that. It's about, Chad Pennington. He was bad for a year or two and had an injury, and then he was good. Now, Damar Hamlin's obviously an extreme case because we watched this horrendous thing happen.
Right.
And then we see his inspirational comeback and we follow him. And I guess if I had to pick between Damar Hamlin and Foster Moreau, I'm not certain who I would pick.
Sure.
But the fact that there's a blow up over this, and it's like this is a one-time thing, which means that we're not talking about what's deserved in terms of, from the human experience, what you overcame. Because then we'd be looking at people who had families of poverty and homelessness. Javon Kinlaw, the ball player for the 49ers who overcame poverty and homelessness. We don't look at that. We saw one guy on TV who had it. And now it's a bully pulpit for Damar Hamlin. Okay. So he played like 60 snaps this whole year.
Yeah, did not play a lot.
Right. So if I'm looking at the award, and I wrote this for the Messenger, it's gone now because the Messenger is gone now. But like I was there when Hamlin won the NFLPA's Man of the Year award. I would have voted for him for Walter Payton Man of the Year. I would do anything to like promote his charities, et cetera, and things like that. And I wish him the best of his career. This is an on-field accomplishment award. It always has been. And for me, it was between Flacco and Mayfield and Stafford, and maybe Quentin Nelson and some of these other guys. The moral right, and if you're the moral righteousness, Hamilton overcame this, that, and the other thing he did. If you're that morally righteous, how come I never saw you tweet about Foster Moreau? If that's what this is about for you, is it a one-time thing for the famous guy, or is it just something that like this is your moral righteousness of the evening? Okay, I apologize to people who like feel like they're getting put on blast by that, but like that's kind of how I feel about it.
No. I think that you may have swayed me there, actually, because I was one of the people like, okay, I understand that, Flacco did a lot of great things, by the way. I saw somebody's like tweeted out, well, staring at the brink of death isn't anything compared to backing up Zach Wilson. So I guess that makes sense.
Right.
But no, I do get where you are coming from with that, the fact that it is an on-field award, and with the other, folks who might have less than ideal circumstances that plague them. So no, that is a very good point. Anthony Jeselnik, the comic, has a great bit where he talks about, when something tragic happens, how people tweet out thoughts and prayers and how that doesn't mean anything. It's just their way of saying, don't forget about me. And I think that is a very good way to think about this.
I hate to say it, but I rarely like do the performative. I have to let you know that I'm thinking about the tragedy too.
Right. Yes.
And this is how I'm going to make myself feel good about myself. It's not going to put $1 in Damar Hamlin's pocket or into his charity or anything. And during the course of the season, I'd watch a Bills game and not think about him.
No matter how hard the broadcast tried to make you think about it, though.
Right. He had the fake punt return in the playoffs.
Man, wasn't that something, by the way?
Right. And like, of course, by that point, people have voted. But it sounds like most people did vote for him first. And
he had the most first place votes. It was Flacco who had more second place votes.
Well, there are experts in weighted voting systems, and when you change the weights, you can change everything. So I hope somebody looks at it and makes sure, are the weights where we really want it to be? Because if somebody gets 50 voters, 40 first place, but then like 10, he's not on the ballot because they don't think he's qualified. I feel like he should still get it. Like that shouldn't be like and 10 FUs. So this dude who had like 18 seconds and 11 thirds and 3/4, and like that adds up. Like, make sure it's okay. You know what I mean?
10 FUs. That's funny. What side do you subscribe to for the Myles Garrett debate? Where obviously, like being a Steelers fan, I thought that TJ Watt was a little bit more deserving. Not just being a Steelers fan, but I think that his production was more so of that than Myles Garrett. But where do you fall in the this debate?
Yeah, I would have voted for Watt, and I don't have the statistics in front of me because I had them all out for an article for the Messenger, which is gone now because the Messenger is gone, and I didn't go and grab them. But like Watt had more hurries and pressures, and are obvious, easy to find things like forced fumbles recovery, everything like that. Just about every number he was ahead of Garrett. And in fact, and this is not a slag on Garrett, you look at two other guys, Daniel Hunter and Max Crosby, who had these numbers that, if you look at them, he was like on a pound for pound basis doing as much or more than Garrett. So I would have voted for Watt. I'm not going to go run and, I'm not going to fight Myles Garrett. So that's for sure.
But he'll hit you in the head with one of these.
Oh yeah. What did you call me? I didn't call you anything, sir. I'm not Mason Rudolph. Hit me on the head with Mason Rudolph's helmet. That's what he will do. It's just weird that we have these voters, and it's all, it's all guys like you and I. They're usually older guys, like in my range. We can all pull up the totals. We can all pull up the pressures. We can all pull up. Everybody's got PFF, or they've got SIS, or they got Aaron's numbers or whatever. And we can all see it. And just, Myles Garrett. Like, are you sure? Are you sure? Another guy who's got like 5 more of everything. Why isn't it him? And I guess I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't either. And I'm not going to sit here and maybe I will sit here and do this. I'll throw it into the world. Where it just felt like all year that it was kind of driven home that Myles Garrett should be the defensive player of the year. And I think that a lot of people just kind of had it in their minds. We're like, well, he's going to be defensive player of the year, and it would have taken an act of God from another defensive player to supersede those that we're going to vote for Garrett. So maybe there's a little bit of that. I don't know.
I think so, because it really was. Well, he's it. Shrug your shoulders. And like, there are games when he and Watt were on the field at the same time, and Watt had more impact. There was that week 2 or week 3 game where Watt had made the plays that got the Steelers the victory. And Garrett, of course, played well in that game. But like, who's the defensive MVP of that game between the two of them? Is T.J. Watt. Right. And then you work your. I think part of it is working your way through the season. The Cleveland Browns offensive woes where their quarterbacks are hurt, where the Steelers offensive woes where the Steelers are doing this on purpose because they want to come back in the fourth quarter. So when you say who's the guy who's getting their team to the playoffs on defense, it's like, well, let's give it to Garrett because he's overcoming something legitimate, not like, oh, well, we said Kenny Pickett's a quarterback of the future, so he is. That's just the way it is. Look at his fourth quarter stats. Get back to me. That ball. I'm blown away with the way the conversation's unfolding in Pittsburgh right now.
No, you know what, man? I've learned that Kenny Pickett for some people, he could take a dump in a bowl of soup and hand it to people, and they would apologize to him. Where there's just some people that can't be saved, and it's what it is. I've learned to not engage with those people just because it's not worth my breath. But I'm also not going to have high expectations for this team because it's going to be like a Ryan Tannehill, a Kenny Pickett, and then a draft pick as the quarterback room, and then another.
Oh, if they bring in Ryan Tannehill to team with Arthur Smith, that's just going to be, oh my God.
Hey,
desiccated remains of Ryan Tannehill running play action passes.
That's the Pittsburgh Steelers way, my friend. They're not about spending money on actual quarterbacks. They're about 9-8 seasons and immediate playoff losses now.
They don't have a recognition. Like organizationally, they don't have a recognition that maybe the quarterback they got was wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Over 40 years, it was rarely wrong. Oh, we drafted him, we nurtured him in our system, and therefore it's good. And like it's really taking them to churn. It's like, no, it's not good. This guy isn't Roethlisberger. He's not doing these things. So they don't have this plan B where it's like, well, what do other teams do? Well, they trade and get a guy. Like we get Mitch Trubisky. That's who we trade and get. We get Tommy Maddox. That's who we trade and get.
I was just about to say, like, they haven't had to do this for 20 years. It's not 2004 anymore, where you can trot out a guy who's like barely above average or very much in their case below average and still be a contender as long as you have a decent defense. Where you can't trot out Bubby Brister and expect to win games, man. This is 2024. You got to get somebody who's good, and they just.
The problem with Bubby is, and this is my era. The problem with Bubby is he was bad, and they had one really good young player. They had Stallworth still, but he was on his way down. It was Lewis Lips, and so that was it. And the team was sort of going into that 8-8 hell that the Steelers find themselves in all the time.
Yeah.
And like, if you have Hines Ward and Antoine Randall L and a good offensive line and this defense, and then you have like your Tommy Maddoxes and stuff like that, you can sort of manipulate to make it happen. You don't have that. And now you've got Arthur Smith, who probably thinks he can do those things. Certainly told himself for the last 2 years he can do those things.
Oh, yeah. I could do this with Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke. Just get out the way and watch.
Right. But without Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, mind you, because they're my team.
But I'm going to do it with Jonnu Smith. I'm going to really, and Mac Hollins.
Right.
Going to really make this hard on myself.
Darnell Washington is going to have an insane role.
It is going to be such heavy Darnell Washington and Connor Hayward and Calvin Austin taking jet sweeps. It's just going to be George Pickens is going to have 30 catches next year and get traded.
And he's going to be every day on Instagram. And those talk radio ninnies out there who get that certain kind of Steelers fan all riled up are going to turn on all the receivers, and it's going to be horrendous. And yet they're still going to finish 9-7-1.
And I'm going to hate it. I said it throughout the entire year. I said the best thing for them to do would be to go 6-11 and stink and realize, okay, we need to have some big changes.
Maybe everyone wants to start over, and you can look at Tomlin and say, don't you want to start over now?
Yeah.
And get him and let him move on. And then, but it's really organizational for the Steelers because it's Art Rooney.
Yeah, I think that Rooney's just kind of stuck in his way of, well, my dad didn't draft a Pitt quarterback a long time ago, and look how good he turned out. I'm not going to make that same mistake.
Right.
I think that's what it is.
It's that 45-year or 55-year institutional memory of dad did this, uncle did this.
Mhm.
They kept the same GM. I don't know how many years they kept the GM, and then this guy who is there now is kind of like his protege. So like every plan, and like continuity is generally good, but like every plan is still like in amber from like 2003.
Right.
And you're like, you guys need some fresh ideas at this point. I mean, you can still draft edge rushers. You guys are phenomenal at that. There's these things you do well. What you're doing on offense hasn't worked in a couple of years. And Roethlisberger was propping it up for a couple of years before that.
Even the skeleton of Ben Roethlisberger was making that work for a little bit.
Okay.
Doing his, it was a weird time to be a Steelers fan. That is for certain. But I do want to give you a chance to plug Two Deep Zone, the Substack.
Two Deep Zone is my new Substack, ladies and gentlemen. I'm striking off on my own because every place I work for mysteriously goes out of business in the dead of night. So if you go to Substack and you look for Mike Tanier, that's TOO, Too Deep, like that girl you dated in college. Who listened to The Cure. Back in our day, it was The Cure. I don't know who it is now. Too Deep. Okay, so it's Two Deep Zone. You go there and you're going to find a lot of, starting Tuesday when I really start launching, a lot of the material you want to have seen from me from the New York Times or from Football Outsiders or from Bleacher Report along the way. Some long forms, some humor pieces, some things that are stats and analytics. It is NFL coverage for drunkards, dreamers, and fools. And if you listen to the Pump Fake, it's probably for you too, because that's who's on this show all the time: drunkards, dreamers, and fools. Right, Jarrett?
I mean, I fall into the category of most of those. So
at least two of them, right?
At least two of them, yeah. So I am subscribed. Everybody should go subscribe to Two Deep Zone.
What two deep young women listen to now, music wise?
Oh, that's a good one. What did my ex-girlfriend listen
Moody? I'm sorry, this sounds sexist and everything, but like moody, bespectacled young ladies. Who's their band? Who's their group? Who's their singer? I mean, besides, I don't know. I guess Taylor Swift, but like that seems like,
yeah. I mean, like my ex-girlfriend was like a big Taylor Swift person, but there was another one that fits that category, and I cannot think of the name of it, and it's gonna really bug me. I'm gonna have to look it up later.
Wow.
But she only goes by one name. Her music's okay, but I can't remember her name, and it's really gonna bother me.
It goes by one name. I'm like Beyonce. I don't think that's
no. It's definitely not Beyonce.
I think you would remember Lizzo.
Oh, it's gonna. Fletcher. Her name's Fletcher.
Her name is Fletcher?
Yes, that is the name that she goes by, Fletcher.
She is a pop, or I guess more like a alternative sensation named Fletcher.
Yeah, it's a lot of, boyfriend left me or left me for a different woman type music, but it's that type of thing.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Emo's not a thing anymore, right? That was like 15 years ago.
Oh, I listen to I don't know if you could qualify what I listen to as. Yeah, you could. There's one of my favorite bands is like a screamo metal band that's pretty depressing. Something
like screamo, not emo. That's like a different.
Is that different?
I think emo wasn't metal. It was more of a drone.
Would My Chemical Romance identify as emo?
I think they're more emo than screamo. I have to get my kid in here to straighten me out. And then the podcast gets derailed instantly as he starts.
I don't care. This is great. My Chemical Romance. I'm just thinking of like 2000s bands. You know who Seether is? Seether was another one. Seether was a good one.
Okay.
So bands like that, I think, would be like more emo. I think the stuff I listen to is more metal. But one band in particular really focuses on like being sad. So I think that's like emo metal.
Being sad, the band. Like that there's somebody called. That there's somebody called. No. That there's somebody called Fletcher. It's like, and I appreciate that she's just Fletcher, but like you can't even like Google that because you'll get like every person named Fletcher in the world.
You get London Fletcher. You'll get his career stats.
Louise Fletcher. Fletcher Longstreet. You'll get all these other people. So I'm lying, of course. If I put in Fletcher, I'm sure she pops to the top because she's famous now, and everyone. London Fletcher is not famous now.
I wonder if she does pop to the top. I'm going to do that after.
You do that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to see who comes up. Let's see. This is great for our podcast listeners. She is the first one that comes up. How about it?
Right. You see, you're aging out too. Like, oh, that's some nobody I've never heard of. Like, no, you listen to classic rock stations, you old fart. This is somebody who's doing vibrant right now. And your London Fletcher remarks, like, she's not as famous as Fletcher. Like, no one knows who the hell London Fletcher is, except that they're listening to this show right now. Everyone else is out there listening to Fletcher and living vibrant lives.
I think I am aging out in some aspects where like I'm not huge into like when it comes to like making TikToks and stuff, that's not my thing whatsoever. I am not that's way past me. I can't do that.
Yeah, we're doomed. We're doomed.
Yeah, I need once I, am big, rich, and famous, I'll hire somebody to do that for me. But right now, man, it's just recording clips and posting them, and that's your TikTok. I can't do much more than that. I don't know what other people are doing in terms of like music wise. I'm very much not in it though. I very much aged out on that.
It only gets worse. It only gets worse. Where you go to bar trivia.
Okay.
And it'll be like music of the 2000s. So we're talking about 20 years ago. And I'm like, I'm dead. I am dead. I have no chance of this whatsoever. And like, yeah, and there's like people like in their 30s. There's not like kids, but like somebody who's got like a stroller, and they're like, I know all these bands. These are my favorite bands, like that. and and it's, you don't have to. Of course, you can listen to new music.
Oh, sure.
But I think the parts of your brain fuse a little bit, and you stop like being able to like get the excitement of new music that you got when you were younger.
I think even like bands that were around in like the mid 2000s, like a Day to Remember. You know that band by any chance?
No, I don't.
Well, they're more of a like a metal-ish band, but like they've evolved a lot. Where they make music now compared to 2009, it's going to sound different. So
which is sure.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think I'm still in that weird phase where like I'm not super young, but I'm not quite old yet. Obviously, that's a matter of perspective, but
it was in my 30s, probably my mid to late 30s, where I couldn't eat. Like I would hear a new song 25 times that was a hit, and I still wouldn't like be able to even connect to it. Like I wouldn't know any of the words or anything.
Yes.
And it's just like I think something in my brain just stopped acquiring this anymore, and it's it's scary. But we have Spotify now, and I can get all the old Tom Waits and Bob Dylan records I want and listen to them.
Except Garth Brooks, you can't get him there.
Can't get him. You can't get Neil Young.
Really?
You can't get Neil Young. There's a couple of other artists, like Radiohead's there now. Like that was a big one for like this demographic here. And I don't want to hear the Radiohead thing. I kind of saw it across your face here. The whole don't date a guy since the Radiohead thing. I didn't take you for a Radiohead guy. Yeah, it don't apply when you're over 50. I think that's like if someone your age is listening to Radiohead, that means there's something going on there in terms of like their I don't want to go into it too much, but
that's a person who owns a trench coat if they're listening to Radiohead at age 25. I am worried.
Band sad. Yes. The band is band sad. Sad the band.
Well, that's as good a place to leave this as any. Go subscribe to Mike on Too Deep Zone. I did a piece on why this game is much more important for the 49ers than it is the Chiefs on USA Today. So go read that. Steelers stuff behind the steel curtain. And I'm doing a piece where I am going back and watching each of Josh Allen's interceptions from this past year and deciding how many of them were actually bad. So that'll
good. Have shots on. You and him can talk about it. Yeah. Aaron's pushing his own boulder right now. Dude. I was there when he talked. I was there when he talked himself into Josh Allen, and I get it. I was like, dude, if we're talking about like the interceptions EPA and we're getting that deep into the statistics, I know the statistic called DVOA
that you created.
And it said Brock Purdy is number 1 by a wide margin. He's like, no. And I was just like, so maybe I might have broken Aaron on that one. And Aaron, I'm sorry if I did that, but like, So well, you're gonna watch all the Josh. You're gonna do the line item veto.
I've already started doing it. I'm at week 9 right now. I've gotten about halfway through.
I mean, good luck. It's because again, I've seen enough of these videos where it turns out, and none of them were his fault.
I'm not saying none of them are his fault. There were some this year where, I make no, qualm about it that he's my favorite player in the league. Right. So I've watched every snap of his, and there were some times this year where I'm just watching, I yell like, "What the fuck are you doing, Joshua?" at the TV. But there are some where, it hits Gabe Davis directly in the hands and it bounces off into the hands of a Broncos defender. You're like, okay, like what? That's not on him. So.
And the whole thing at the end of the game where Tony Romo decided he was going to quarterback the game himself from the booth. Oh, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done this. Oh, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done this. And I did 4 radio stings the next day. And every announcer was like, what about the decision making by Josh Allen at the end there? I was like, I think he was being second guessed by somebody who, if he was in that game, would have thrown 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
That's
so Tony Romo had a ton of playoff success in his career. No offense to Tony Romo, but
tell me how to field a field goal snap, Tony. Tell me more about your playoff success. And of course, I get it. I get that he does spot things and things like that. But when he's going hard on that type of thing, it changes the dynamic. Josh Allen played lights out in that game.
Yeah,
he played absolutely the Bills would not have been anywhere near close in that game if he wasn't running like a madman and distributing the ball. And then they get down close to field goal range, and he takes a couple of deeper shots, and maybe there was somebody open. You can't start second guessing him at that level when he's the only reason there. It's like, oh well, he made 2 bad decisions at the end, so he sucks and F him. Like, come on.
You can't blame him and say that he sunk the ship when he was the only one throwing boat out of the water.
Yes, right. He was throwing boat out of the water, and one time with the bail, it landed back in. Oh, well, that's on him,
Yes, very much.
Right.
I said boat out of the water. I meant water out of the boat. I definitely said that backwards, but everybody knew what we meant. I will.
An excuse. I'm on Dayquil.
Oh, I can't do Dayquil, man. Oh no, I can't do NyQuil. NyQuil will give you fever dreams and make me wake up in a cold sweat.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't take medicine to sleep anymore if I'm sick for that reason. It's
probably a healthy attitude, but sometimes when you're congested, you need a little something. But
sure.
Waking up at 3 a.m. with a cold sweat and having a nightmare about something really, really strange. Yeah, it's not the best.
It's not great.
No.
But I will see you in Indy for the Combine, which is less than a month away as we record this. I'm so excited for that. It's gonna be a good time. Me, you, and Doug Farrar are we're gonna get a boat of pasta again.
No, we're not going to Buca no Pupo. We're not going there. I had 3 fake Italian meals there, and I'm gonna draw a line in the sand. We'll just keep going to Ram, because what was it? Rock Bottom was out of business. So one of the
that's sad.
One of the 2 little burger joints were out of business. So we kept going back to Buca no Pikachu, and and I was fine with that boat of pasta with a little bit of pesto. It was okay, but no, line in the sand. We'll go to Weber's. We'll just go to Panera, and then we'll go out for drinks afterwards. Anything, but I'm not eating that fake Medigon Italian again.
Okay, that's fine. I can get on board with that. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with whatever. The NFL feeds us during the day, and then at night we're kind of on our own. But I'm just along for the ride. I'm there. I'm having fun. I'm a small boy. I don't got to eat too much to get by, so I'll be okay.
Yeah, we eat lunch on the NFL's dime. You eat their horrible turkey sandwiches, and you get it down. It's like get some fruit. You're fine.
It's like a little mall food court attached to the convention center.
God, we wound up at that damn Subway that one time.
We did get Subway that last year, yeah.
Oh God, Subway.
I had Subway last night, actually.
Because what? Oh yeah, what'd you have?
I had the
yoga mat with.
I had the rotisserie chicken, and I got it on Italian herbs and cheese with pickles, onions, and garlic aioli.
See, it always sounds good.
Yeah, it was all right.
Okay. It's just such give up on life food. Sorry, we'll never.
It is.
Yeah.
I think I got tuna last year, and you did not stop commenting on the fact that I got Subway tuna for the remainder.
I've had Subway tuna. I probably started talking about the Subway near where the Steelers practice in Latrobe.
I do think that this is where that came back to. Yes,
where you get done all your media availabilities at that seminary and everything, and you roll out. It's like, what am I going to do? Like the bars in Latrobe, you're going to run into that guy. He's going to have a rebel flag on his hat, etc.
He's going to be wearing a dirty Cordell Stewart jersey, jorts, and Air Monarchs, and want to talk about how great the 2002 season was.
Right. And then he's going to tell you about his politics, and you're going to run screaming.
Yeah.
So you wind up going to Subway if you're me and getting the tuna sandwich and going back to the hotel and being like, what have I done with my life? What have I done with my life? So anyway,
I know that this is continuing to drag, but so last year, Jarrett Bell and I were at Steelers camp on the same day. Okay. And obviously we have the same name, same initials and everything like that. So I show up to get my cred, and they like start looking confused. They're like, we already have you here. I'm like, oh, I wasn't here yet today. And somebody else comes in and they say, oh, wait, we gave yours to Jarrett Bell.
Oh,
and Jarrett, we're going to give Jarrett Bell's to yours if you find each other.
Yeah,
So
and you all look so much alike. I can see.
Oh, yeah, no, we were separated at birth, me and Jarrett Bell. So I found him. That's the first time I had ever met him in person, too. So I like tapped him on the shoulder. He's like, Jarrett Bell. And immediately he's like, Jarrett Bailey. I'm like, that's me. And we switched our stuff. So that was a fun little occurrence between him and I. Last year in Latrobe. Are you doing a camp tour by chance?
I mean, I got to figure out who's going to credential me and everything in the days and weeks to come. And everything's going to be on my dime, so I'll figure it out. I'd like to go out to Latrobe for a couple of days.
Oh, man, let's do it together. It'll be a fun time.
Try to do it. And like what you eat at that place, is it Stop and Eat? Stop and Lunch.
I don't eat too much stuff out there. There's a bar there that I usually go to with a few of the another beat guy. Has really good wings and relatively nice priced beers.
There's a bar there used to be a bar that was in somebody's basement. That I went to for a couple of years, but it was actually officially a bar. I don't know if that's still open. That was neat. There's a one in a town, the next town over, where it was like, that was weird. But there's like a place in the mall, not the shopping center parking lot, that's kind of like a Denny's, but it's not a Denny's, and the pie is amazing. The pie is so good. So
we'll get pie in Latrobe then this summer.
Pie in Latrobe, and then we'll go get beer after pie, and it'll be delicious.
Amen. All right, my friend. It's always great talking to you. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I'll be betting on it heavy and texting you my bets. Hopefully they hit.
Good luck. I'll be betting a little bit too.
Oh, and we'll be back next week where we're going to start just one episode a week after the season's done. But once again, to free agency, maybe we'll amp it up a little bit. But enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. It's the Pump Fake.